David Asarnow, thank you for being here today. David is the founder of a company called Business Nitrogen, and he has helped his clients generate over 750 million in revenue. I feel like that number might even be low, David. You correct me if I'm wrong. I am so happy to have you here today. And David has kind of a magical ability to help his clients get unstuck and reach the revenue goals that they're moving towards. So, David, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Oh, let me count the ways. What do I do? I help clients, really figure out where they want to go, where the bottlenecks are, and then create the connections of the strategies. I build companies and I help people sell things. How else do you do that? You connect the dots. You've got sales, you've got marketing, you've got operations. And since I've built multiple eight-figure businesses for myself and other people, it gives me the vision of being in a company as well as outside, doing it myself, all the things you need to do, and the things that hold so many entrepreneurs back. So I just literally get in and it becomes fun. I co-create their business with them and help them see their vision become a reality. And that's really what I do, and that's what's fun.
Give me an example of what that looks like. If you like worked with a coach or a consultant, what did they come to you complaining about or struggling with? And then walk us through what you did for them and where they ended up.
Okay, well, I can give you a couple of examples in the past, and I have a story from yesterday.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
well, I had a client of mine who was doing multiple seven figures, and well, he was, and then he lost his platform that he was selling in at seminars and events, and he had one outlet, and he's like, "How do I duplicate this?" And I said, "Well, what's your goal?"
Wait,
And he
what,
said,
wait, rewind. How did he lose the platform?
"Well, it was one seminar speaker, one seminar that did seminars around the world,
Got
and
it.
so that he lost the stage
Got it.
there."
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So the question then is, how do you recreate that?
Right.
And I said, well, we can recreate it online. He says, well, I've never done online. And I said, okay, great. Still, we can do it online. And I said, what's your goal? He said, I'd like to get to $1 million in the next 12 months. I said, well, if you've done more than that, I believe that we can get you there. You're going to need to learn a different way of communicating. You're going to have to be coachable because how you do it live is a little bit different than how you do live events, especially if you don't have that same engagement. You have to actually amp up your energy because people feel it differently when you're in a room compared to when you're in the computer screen. And so and then we created a vessel for him. We created the funnel, the marketing, the positioning, and we created the change in how he's going to be offering his products to get people into his world. And so, not everything one that has this kind of success, we were able to accomplish it in 90 days.
Wow.
So, and then he grew a multi-million dollar business over the next couple years. So he was able to get it all back and then found some new stages and was able to amplify it from there. I have a client I've been working with now, and you know, they don't have a lead problem. They're getting a lot of leads and they're doing it for live events. And they do live event training, and then their offer is a 3-day event. And from there, they have, a high ticket upsell offer. And there was a bunch of little things that can be fixed from how do you make the position for the offer. But if you look upstream, where can you make the greatest impact? And so as a consultant, we always have to look there. There's a lot of little things that can be fixed, but where can we make the greatest impact in the shortest period of time to add value? And so they were talking about, well, I need better lead quality. I said, great. I do believe that you need better lead quality. However, if you have an event that you have 30 something people register for, 7 people commit, and you only have 3 people show up, I think you have a different problem that we need to address first. Before you spend more money on fixing the back end, you've really got to fix the front end
Right.
and put the right kind of systems. And if you look at, well, what's broken or what could be fixed? It's like, okay, people register, they get the confirmation. I said, well, today you can actually either human or you can use artificial intelligence. Once someone opts in, to have a conversation with them and let them know, as soon as you opt in, we're going to send a text message. We want you to respond to it and tell us why you're registering for this. And now all of a sudden you're getting into why. you start understanding what their pain, their challenge, their problem is, and why they're attending the event. And then through artificial intelligence, it can actually have a pretty decent conversation with someone, say, this is awesome. We're going to share with your presenter that's going to be training you at your upcoming event. And now everything that goes to that potential client could be personalized. And because people don't care, what you offer unless it's going to solve their needs. And today we live in such a distracted society. And I mean, that's just one little tweak. Now, I gave him an entire step-by-step checklist and plan of what needs to be done. However, I said before we do anything, we need to get more people showing up, because if you can change your show up rate from 20% to 35 to 50%, you can double your revenue with money you've already spent without doing anything else.
Right.
So that's an example from just yesterday.
So how are you going to get more people to show up?
Well, exactly that. Instead of just sending a text message reminder, my plan was, well, first on the landing page, you're going to have a video. When they register, you're going to have a second video that encourages them that they made a really good decision, and here's why you made a decision. I'll give you something else that we're going to add in there. Then it's going to AI will message them or text message them instantly and just say, we're so excited to see you at the event. Can you please tell us what inspired you to register? And it's open-ended. We're now getting all this detail about them. We're able to have conversations. The good news is all of this then goes into their CRM, which for them it's HubSpot, and they're now able to have everyone downstream who speaks with this potential client understands what their motivators are, what's driving that person, where they are at their life, and why they're looking to get that problem solved. So that to me, that's a real simple, low cost to no cost solution. And in the scheme of things, when you're spending millions of dollars on marketing, you're talking a couple $100s a month in something that could be a quick fix that gets more personalization and engagement. Now, one of the other things that they didn't have is a way to follow up on, I mean, they have hundreds of thousands of people over the years that have registered for an event and never showed up.
Mhm.
And so they're going to now, next stage is going to be a survey segmentation file to find we're going to use a personality. What X personality type are you?
Mhm.
And find out, because people like that. Once they take that, it will be agnostic to the company. And then once they're in, it will have a video that explains their personality for that service that this company offers. And then it will make a repitch inviting them to take that next step. So all of this is over the past few days, how to address that problem.
Right, right. I think you touch on a overarching theme that often the nuts and bolts of what you're doing are working or almost working, and that really having somebody come in with a fresh perspective
Yeah.
to make sure that everything is tuned up properly and that a couple of little tweaks can make a huge difference in the bottom line.
It's where can you create the most leverage in the shortest period of time? And, as a consultant or a coach, when you work with clients, you want to figure out how you can get a win quickly,
Right.
generating revenue or saving money. And if you can figure out how to help them generate revenue or save money and create a win for them, they don't look at you as an expense. They look at you as an investment in their business.
Right. I mean, that's the way it should be, right? Like, how are you going to get a return and then continue to grow your revenue after that? So
Absolutely.
you mentioned AI as one of the things that you leveraged and you're leveraging with this client. Are there other ways that you've integrated AI into your client work for your business or your client's business? Anything that hasn't worked with AI, or are you really figuring it out, and what are the ways that it's working for you outside of the chat?
Outside of ChatGPT, we're using voice AI. I mean, we have complete, people say that they want leads, but they don't want leads. They want appointments.
Mm,
And so if you look at from a customer, if you hired a outsourced setter team, they're not going to be able to have a level 10 conversation, most likely about your products, your goods, your services. And you can actually train AI to have that kind of conversation and even have it with empathy. And so we've created my company business Nitrogen for clients, a complete appointment booking system where the lead comes in, has a conversation. acknowledges that it's AI and just says, hey, if you'd like to speak with a person, I'll transfer you at any time. But in the meantime, would you please give me an opportunity to serve you? Just
Mm,
little things. Because
yeah,
if you're authentic, if you don't try to pull the wool, the people hate when, oh, this is AI. But
right.
if you disclose up front,
Yeah.
people are willing to give it a chance. And it's getting better by I used to say it's getting better by the month, but I think it's getting better by the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're doing that now as far as how other clients, because I do AI speaking and AI consulting and as well. I mean, for some clients, where's the biggest bottleneck? Well, onboarding clients, they have to scan current client paperwork or invoices and to find out everything about them and how they can serve them better. And we've created a system where, before it would take about 45 minutes to 2 hours to just do the intake for a new potential client and do the evaluation. And now they just scan in and AI does it automatically and it becomes infinite scalable. And the reason that it's challenging is they've got, I'll just say, they have to have the variable of 30 to 50 different types of forms that are being scanned in, and the AI has to recognize where it goes from, where to place it, and how to calculate it based upon that. And so our team was able to, our AI development team, and Business Nitrogen AI, so two companies, and we were able to do that for this client. So that is all about how do they save money because it- we created a target 10. I did something I used to work for Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes, and Chet Holmes calls it the Dream 100. And I joke with Chet, I said, well, I had it before you. I call it the Target 25 because I was able to build a $45 million business for a 50-year-old company with only 25 prospects. They just happen to be big prospects. So I call it Target 25.
Mm.
We went down this avenue with them on the strategy. And then it's funny what happens when you have intention and you have focus, and all of a sudden you tune everything else out. Literally, these multi-million dollar clients started appearing just because the intention changed, the lens, they started seeing them. And now before it was like, okay, here's what, well, within months, it started happening. And how do we onboard all these people without hiring more people? So I said, well, we could do it with AI. And we just did a test to prove out that it worked because they didn't believe it could work and it worked. So those are two very different examples with artificial intelligence on what you can do. By the way, everyone here just needs to get really good at communicating with AI because the reason I love it because you have 140 plus IQ that becomes your collaboration partner. And that means iron sharpens iron. So many people say that people's prefrontal cortex is dying because of AI. It's because they're not using it to challenge themselves, to get them thinking in a 360-degree way. When you
Mm.
start having it challenge you and it's asking you questions that you actually have to think, you've now got an amazing coach. Now, I've also used AI because I created some models and where I used to do a quarterly strategy with the client and we're sitting there doing all the strategy and planning. I will do it now because I put my models into custom GPTs or projects. I will actually do it along with the client, recording it and literally interviewing the client using AI. And they don't care. They don't care that we're using AI and say they're not asking they pay me less, but we're able to accomplish more in a shorter period of time, and which is once again creating leverage, saving time, which means you're saving money.
Totally. Yeah. What are some of the ways that you interact with AI for your own business that allows you to have breakthroughs?
Well, the breakthroughs, I will get lost in I've had a lot of breakthroughs using the models that I've created to work with clients and just working it through myself. And so before I do anything with anyone else, I have to be the guinea pig.
Yep.
And it's so funny. I was speaking at an entrepreneur conference that had about 500 people there. And I was at the conference day one and I heard some things that were going on. And I said, I did I had a 90-minute and then a 2-hour workshop with them. And before the 90-minute, I said, I'm going to give an exercise to these guys and we're going to do a live drive-through. And I came with an idea. And so I just wanted to put it to the test that night. And I ended up going down a rabbit hole for 2.5 hours myself that I had breakthroughs. And by the way, I was able to tell the story the next day. We're going to do something right now that I think is so cool that I got lost 2.5 hours into it. Now, you're not going to spend 2.5 hours today in the workshop. We're just going to play with it. However, afterwards, I encourage you to go back to what we're going to be working on. And so to me, it was like different ways to look at things. It's to me, it's fun. It's amazing how it really can have us harness the power of everything that we have here that we don't even realize and don't think about on a day-to-day basis.
Mm. Hmm. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the journey from an interested lead or potential client comes to your website, encounters you online. Tell me about what happens. Like, where do coaches and consultants go wrong with the buyer's journey, right? You mentioned that people want booked calls, and that is true. Like, the call is the fastest way to more profits, but you've got to get on the call with them. So let's say somebody is on a website, they book a call. Where are the holes, or where are the bottlenecks, or what are people doing wrong that they could easily tune up?
Well, I wouldn't say I don't, until you see something, you don't know what we're doing wrong. The question we have to really ask is what are some, if we're selling coaching or consulting, which means typically it's high ticket, and which means we have to show value. And so one of the things that I recommend is not making it easy on the front end for someone to book an appointment with you. You ask questions, in an open manner to have them give you details and information. You provide value and content to them on your website so they have an idea of who you are, what you're about, and how you're going to serve them or add value to them. Uh, and then once they do, you make them jump through a lot of hoops. You ask very detailed questions. You let them know, listen, I don't know if it makes sense for us to work together. You be honest.
Hmm.
I only can take on a certain number of clients that I'm going to work with. So I'm asking you these questions because I need to know who you are and make sure that I can serve you, because I'm not going to take you on unless I think I can serve you. And I've actually had people who emailed us and said, I spent over half an hour answering your questions. I'm done with it. We're not, you're asking too many questions. And I was joking with my team. I said, that's exactly why we ask these kind of questions,
Right.
because that wouldn't be a good client. Because I joke with people, it's like Mr. Miyagi says, I say you do no questions, which means if I tell you to paint the fence, you paint the fence. If I tell you to wax on, wax off, you wax on, wax off. And those are the kind of clients that we want, because they're going to be coachable. They're going to be open to receiving the information that we give them, and that's how they're going to get results and see the value in you as a coach or consultant. So ask detailed questions, and make sure that you can end. Then what I would do, and this has nothing to do with AI, then provide content and information before the meeting to acknowledge them. And you made this. Now I want you to watch this video. Step one, watch this video. Step two, do this. Once again, you're training them to see if they are going to be a good potential fit for you as a coach or consultant. And
Right.
so for each individual company or person, I would do that. Now, I get most of my leads. We do pay for traffic and we drive people to our website. And it's not a lot of leads that we're getting or looking for, because I don't can only handle a certain number anyway. But we get people, and usually they'll speak to someone on my team first before they'll get to speak with me, just to make sure that we are a good fit for each other.
And where are you running your ads?
We're running them on Google.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Google tends to be a little bit more targeted of a lead than a Meta.
Mm.
And the problem on Meta, no, we do a lot on Meta for clients. But if you're a coach or consultant, the best thing to do on Meta is to have an offer or a low ticket offer or an ebook or something where they can start getting indoctrinated with you and your information. And then you can have the ascension, and the meeting with you is the coaching call is the highest ticket upsell. So they've paid for that time. And when people pay, they pay attention. The other side of things where we don't charge, on our website, is because people usually call because they've seen me speak somewhere. And so I've already built value
Right.
in speaking engagement. And frankly, that's one of the best things a coach or consultant can do: speak for free.
Mm.
I mean, I'll give you an example of that. This conference was looking for an AI speaker, and they were looking for a big name, and they didn't know who I was, and even that I spoke. And I said, I'm going to make it really easy for you to say yes to me. And they looked at me, and I said, I know you think you want these other people, I'll send you a speaker reel. I used to be a top speaker for Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes. I wouldn't put myself or you in a place to not serve your audience, and I will do it for free. Just pay for my flight and my hotel." And they just looked at me. And because I know I have one of my friends who gets paid 50,000 as a speaker said, "I would never have done that." But here's the thing, the back end of that, I've made over $75,000 so far from that one keynote,
Mhm. Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Because I put trust in myself that I'm going to serve the audience. So here's the funny thing, at that conference, I was the top rated speaker at the event, and I was the only one that didn't charge.
Wow.
So that is one other thing that a coach or consultant can do: speak wherever you can, add value wherever you can, and the right people are going to raise their hand and reach out to you. And as long as you do everything you can to serve them, they'll raise their hand to serve. And by the way, at the event, I asked, "Can I give some free giveaways?" And they said yes. I said, "I got an idea. People who like this, what if I did a webinar afterwards where they can come, they can bring their teams. I'll do a Zoom, interactive Zoom. I'll go deeper on one of the things that I teach at the event." They're like, "You'd be willing to do that?" I said, "Heck yes."
Oh
And
yeah.
then I was at the end of my talk, I was able to put a QR code. Any of you want more of this? Just register for my free webinar. I'm going to do it on a week. And I said, I'm going to do it before I go to Nepal because I went to Nepal with my son. I said, doing it the Friday before I leave for Nepal. And I did. And it's because of that that people are like, "When are you coming back? I want to meet with you." So I already had my calendar booked when I got back from my trip a month later.
Right. That's brilliant. Really brilliant. Okay, so you people come to your website, you have a team member meet with them first, and then you get on a call with them. And on that call, essentially, do they make the decision if they're going to work with you or not? Or do you ever get off the call and they're like, "I want to think about it." What happens?
Um, I don't I don't like to do the I'll think about it. So really I never do a one call close because I'm actually giving them homework usually on that first call.
Okay.
So I'm literally saying, "Okay, I don't know if we should work together yet. I'm going to give you some homework. I want to see, we're going to get back, because if we're going to work, I play hard to get, I guess. I mean, there's a theme here, right?
Right.
But but it's true because my time is valuable and I want to make sure if I'm going to spend time with someone, I want to spend time with someone.
Right.
And so I want to know how they think and how they operate and that they're going to do the work that they need to do. And I can't remember anyone who didn't say, do the homework and come back. And I say, by the way, if we're going to work together, this is what it will look like.
Mm,
I say now, after a while, I have a partners in profit program where I can reduce your fee on a monthly basis, and I get a percentage of your revenue growth. But I won't even look at that until we've worked together 6 months to make sure that we like working together because that's making a longer term commitment, and I'm not ready to do that yet.
mm. You are hard to get. I love this. I love this. It's so refreshing. Tell me about the homework that you give on the first call.
Well, it really depends upon the conversation. So
Okay.
I really, it's like I said, it's totally fluid. I'm
Oh,
asking a lot of questions. I don't know where the conversation is going to go,
yep.
but it's really, I want to know about their business. And it's not just about money growth. Why are you doing this? What's your end game? Why are you looking to scale this company? Where do you want to take it? Tell me about the team members. What do you see as the challenges or bottlenecks? And based upon that, I will give them homework to do. In fact, a lot of times I have a bunch of different custom GPTs I've created
Mm,
that I'll just give it to them. And I said, "I want you to put this exact question in the GPT. It's going to interview you," because I'm almost training them how to work with me right then and there.
right. Right.
And so, yeah, and then we'll come back and I'll have them send it to me and we're going to review it and then we're going to have another conversation. And by that time, if they've done the homework, and they already know the pricing, we're probably going to work together.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a courtship. It's a real
Yeah,
courtship. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it is.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like. I do know what it's like because I know you've watched some of my videos and you saw my TED Talk. I know what it's like to be right at the end and 30 days from losing everything. And sometimes it's hard to push people away and we want that customer and sale. However, I can tell you based upon now what I've seen, and you've probably seen this too, if we bring people on because we need the money, it's probably not going to be a good fit. We're going to regret it afterwards, and it's going to cost us more time and money because we brought on the wrong person,
Yes, and the cost is so much greater than we think it's going
including
to
right
be,
here.
right? It
It's
is. And
here
they're
and
like,
here.
yes. And as entrepreneurs, like we don't step away from the business. Like I think I can speak for myself. Like I care so deeply about my clients that I'm having ideas and thoughts about them throughout the day. And so, yeah, it's when it's not a good fit, the cost is way beyond the money, way beyond.
It it's
Yeah.
it's very high. So someone the best lead generation that we as coaches and consultants, and I say this knowing that I have a business growth strategy company, but I do work with a handful of clients. I would say every time I speak, I pick up a client and or a new opportunity or a referral to someone else. So if you don't have a platform to speak at, run an event for entrepreneurs or whoever your market is that you serve and run a free event, rent out a hotel conference room and advertise it locally. Put, 500 to $1,000 in Facebook ads targeting your audience to get people in a room for free. I can pretty much almost guarantee that if you do that for free, your right client will raise their hand.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's any benefit to charging even a small amount for that to like
There
you
is.
the
You
value of it is perceived differently.
It is perceived differently, and if you're desperate and you need people to show up,
Hmm.
serve them for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've done in the past, and it's interesting because I have different people who charge a lot less per month than I do that will charge for a strategy call with someone. And I said, well, I'm not having the first call with them, so someone else is on the team is talking to them,
Right.
and I always look at myself. Would I pay for a strategy call for someone that I don't know? And maybe if it was a big name person I wanted to, but for the most part, if someone's willing to give me their time, I'm appreciative and grateful for it.
Yeah.
So I assume that other people are as well.
Mhm.
And even though they may not, by the end of the call, they are.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. So you've worked with Tony Robbins for many years. What did you learn from him? Like looking back on that phase of your life, what were like some of the key learnings, positive or negative, that you walked away with there?
I can tell you that, well, my experience with Tony was kind of interesting. My first job out of, well, no, my second job out of college, I got an opportunity for a job interview. I was living in Clearwater at the time, and they wanted me to meet in Tallahassee, 5 hours away, and it was an 8:30 or 9 a.m. interview. And so I got up at 3 in the morning and listened to, this is in 92. I listened to Personal Power, 5 cassettes from Nightingale Conant back then on the whole ride up there. I was pounding my chest, screaming,
Uh-huh.
and I said, "There's no way this company's not hiring me," and I got the job.
Wow.
And I moved to Atlanta because of that. A friend of mine that I met in Atlanta, just a long story, I'll shorten the story. Good friend, we're still friends this day, 35 years later. So we're playing tennis one day at our apartment complex, and he's like, "Hey, I'm moving to California next week. I'm going to work for this guy, Tony Robbins." And he invited me to Tony Robbins event. It was probably 1,000 people. It was in years ago. It was back then in the 90s.
Mhm.
And I remember sitting in that room saying, one day I want to be on that stage doing that. The problem was I was scared to stand up in front of the room. I got to see him public speaking in college.
Mhm.
And who would have known, just like, 15 years or so later that I would, get that opportunity and get to speak on, for him in chat. I wasn't on the motivation rah-rah side. I was on the business growth side of things.
Yep.
They had Business Breakthroughs International, of which Business Mastery came out of that. So we
Mhm.
used to teach those principles. I can tell you that the number one thing that I learned is don't try to do someone else's talk, be yourself.
Mm.
And so when I integrated the teachings of Tony and Chet, and I was able to then add in my own personality and take the principles, but utilize stories of how I applied the information versus telling their case studies,
Right.
I created a different connection with clients. And the number one thing that I got is time. I was speaking, there were 2.5 to 3 hour workshops, and I was doing 5 to 7 of them a week. Okay,
Wow.
that is what where I was able to hone my skills, because you're doing workshops for entrepreneurs and you never know what they're going to throw at you, and you have to solve their problems based upon the strategy that you're teaching right then and there and have them come up with breakthroughs. So the gift that I got was realizing that A, I was good at it, but B, I actually really enjoy it. Today, to this day, love just solving people's problems. I love the workshop, get in front of the room, teach, educate, solve problems, move on to the next concept. So I got to find out what I love, what I love doing, and what I get to do, and have them join together. And I'm speaking a lot these days because of it. In fact, that came out of our trip to Nepal. My son's like, "Dad, why don't you just speak more? You love it. You love doing that." And I said, "Josh, you're right." And so I've made a concerted effort now to do that.
How do you create a talk that's really engaging and really compelling? You talked about this last event that you are the top rated speaker, the only one that did it for free. How do you make your talk so great? I think that's the $1 million question.
A, be yourself,
Yeah.
ask questions. So the way that you make, instead of doing, listen, there's some amazing keynote speakers, and it's like putting on a performance. It is art. It is artistry. And the ability to get up there and do that the same way every single time. I I want to be careful because I have done that. I did it for my TED Talk. Although I look at my TED Talk now and I'm like, I could have done this, I could have done that. Although it was the first time that I ever memorized something and delivered it as if it was the first time I was giving it. The
Ooh.
way I did that though is the first time my family was in the audience, they had never seen my talk before. So when I was delivering it, I knew when I was telling those stories, and my daughter's there, and I'm talking about how I had to borrow her babysitting money when she was 12 years old just to pay mortgage.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm telling
Wow.
the story and I'm looking at her and I see her, and then she says, "Dad, I'll give it to you, but will you pay me back?" So I knew that I would be able to step and feel the emotion if I delivered it for the first time and they were hearing it for the first time. My
Right.
parents didn't even know any of this, that I was going through this, because I kept it internally and didn't share. So it, I've never given that talk again,
Hmm.
though.
Hmm.
And so how do you give a talk? There's certain patterns and flows that are out there, that you can model, and how to create that story, and how do you open it and engage them? How do you deliver a piece of knowledge and open a loop? Go to another thing, open the loop. You give your knowledge, and at the end, you have a way that you can tie it all together. So that way, because you open a loop,
Yeah.
they'll still stay engaged because you haven't closed it.
Right.
And then at the end, you tie it all together, and you package it into a bow. I I learned it from studying other people, reading books,
Yeah.
and
Watching
going to
movies
programs.
and watching
Mo-
movies. Movies do it all.
Movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, movies are great at that. I remember I was giving a talk one day, and it was probably about 150 people there, and a friend of mine messaged me, and he's really good at this. Not He doesn't deliver the talks, but he's really good at coaching other people on it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, what are you delivering your talk on?" And I said, "Dude, I'm like, I'm going to be up all night doing this." He said, Let's get on a Zoom." And he started asking me questions, and he said, "Walk me through your talk." He said, "Why don't you do this?" And he helped me restructure it.
Hmm.
And he's the one who taught me about the opening the loops. And he's like, "If you did it this way," and at the end of it, next day, people said, "That was the best talk I've ever seen you give." And I've spoken for that audience before. So I'm not necessarily, I can help someone on the delivery. I'm not the person that would ever help someone write their talk. But I know the components and pieces and how to do it. I know how to do it for myself. It's not what I do for other people.
Right. Right. Right.
But hire someone, find someone who's
Yeah.
good. There's people online that have YouTube channels that talk about how to open a talk, how to get people sitting at the edge of their seat. The big thing is, I ask a lot of questions. I hook their mind. Every time you ask a question, you hook their mind. You get them to give you feedback. Does this make sense? Are you learning something? Is this valuable to you? When they're doing that, they're also saying, "Yeah, this is a valuable talk." So at the end of it,
Mm.
they're not going to say yes, they're out, that it was great, and then afterwards say it wasn't. So, and you can watch the people in the room and see how they're reacting. And I remember taking a training from T. Harv Eker in the beginning of my speaking, and he called it, or Blake Singer was his trainer at the time, and he called it as ising. Sometimes you just have to call it as is in the room that you see it, just to make sure that you're going in the right direction and serving your audience.
Mm. Tell me more about that. What do you mean as a zine? Like, what does that mean?
If you see that people are disconnected or they're not getting what you're saying, you acknowledge that.
Mm. Got it.
Say, "I think I'm losing you here. Or I'm seeing that there's a disconnect. Let me ask you a question. Does this make sense? And if it doesn't, please tell me where I'm missing things." Just
Right.
talk about it as a human with them.
I love it.
This is a workshop speaker. It's not, an orchestrated, keynote.
Right. 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 All right. Well, David, it's been such a delight to have you here today. Let's leave our listeners with one thing they can do to move toward reaching their financial goals.
One thing that they can do to reach their financial goals
Yes, if in coaching and consulting. Just
in coaching and consulting,
yep.
serve more people. That's it.
Yeah.
Serve more people, get out there, give value, give content, whether your medium is in person speaking, as I like to do, or you're putting value and content online, do more of it. Do more of it. I have a friend of mine who was a client and now a friend, and 6 months into it, he had 300 followers, and now he's the number one influencer 5 years later in his niche. And it's because he said, "What am I doing wrong?" I said, "You're not connecting to your audience. Be vulnerable, tell your story and connect it to their pain, challenge, and problem, and show them how you can be that person to solve it for them." And the right people, as I said, will raise their hand and start following you.
Amen. Amen. Drop the mic. So where can people find you?
uh, on Instagram, real David Asarnow, and Business Nitrogen, davidasarnow.com, businessnitrogen.com, or .ai, and davidasarnow.com.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. It was great.
Thanks for having me.